You know, we've got about 10 million laws, but if everyone listened to 10, we'd probably be all better off. And James Madison said, it does little avail to the American people if laws are written that are so voluminous nobody can read them, so incoherent they can't understand them, they're altered and modified before they're promulgated and subject to interpretation, so nobody can know what the law was yesterday, what it is today, or what it will be tomorrow. That's why a lot of these laws are written 2,800 pages to Obamacare, and not one senator read it, not one congressman read it. They didn't have time to read it, why the sky would fall. If they took the time to read it, it needed to be passed immediately. Now, when it comes to energy, well, we just need more time to study the research, and we can't pass allowing as cheaper energy to come to our country. But when it comes to Obamacare, it needed to be passed right now before the second term elections. You know, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, anybody can read in 20 minutes. It's simple language that every American can understand. It's written to protect us from the role of government as tyrants. Our forefathers fled England because the King George, you either was imprisoned or tortured or murdered if you didn't believe like the Church of England. They didn't want a government that was based on tyranny. They didn't want one that was based on anarchy. Every government before America, those were the two forms of control. It was nothing but tyrants ruling the people. The first time in history of the world where people were allowed to govern themselves. Simple language. And it wasn't long they took the electricity out of the clouds, the oil out of the rock, the aluminum out of the clay. They had rivers to be bridged and cities to be built and mountains to be trailed. Why they built the greatest land the world has ever known, through principles of self-government and allowing people to have the ability to develop their knowledge and talents according to their own unique abilities. And it came from the premise that all of our rights come from God, not government. That's why your rights can never be taken away from you, because they come from God. The principle of equality came from the principles of Christianity, that we're all born free and equal. We're endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable, which means God-given rights, among which are life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. Today, the government is replacing God. They're giving you new rights that have never been granted in the Constitution. And if the majority of people outnumber the ones working who want rights and want the government to take care of them, we will lose our freedom forever. Ronald Reagan said, freedom is not free. We don't inherit it in our bloodstream. It must be deliberately taught and nurtured in the hearts and minds of the people. These are nothing but words. If every person hasn't read it and hasn't digested it, and it's not in the hearts and minds of this generation, because someday we'll sit down with our grandchildren and tell them what it was like once when America was free. When's the last time you've read these words and understood them? Hopefully our government has woke a sleeping giant. Millions of Americans armed in the holy cause of liberty are invincible against any force the enemy can rise against us. The battle is not to the strong, it's to the active, the vigilant, and the brave. History will be determined by a dedicated minority, and that's you and me.